G'day everyone, Nathan here at Glass for Classics. We're going to run you through today fitting up the rear quarter windows into the frames for those of you with the XM XP Falcon Hardtops, or if you have their American cousin, the Falcon Sprints, Mercury Comets, etc. Now, this particular customer has actually had his frames re-chromed and all his stainless polished up, so these ones are looking absolutely mint. We've supplied the brand new glass, so we are actually making a point of fitting this correctly. A lot of people tend to fall back on urethane, Sikaflex, etc. You really don't want to do that. It's actually a longer process and there's more room for error. What we use is the traditional setting tape. It's what Ford used from the factory in every circumstance. So this one's finished. We're going to move on to this now. All of our glass we cut by CNC machine. It is millimetre perfect to the originals. It all comes with a nice clear safety stamp on each piece. We can do clear, green or grey. So it will all be toughened as per the original. Do not let anybody cut this in laminated glass for you. You will have no end of drama fitting this into the frame. Now, if you're using our glass or the original glass, it is 5mm toughened. So you are going to want 1.6mm setting tape. We carry it, it's always in stock. It's usually about $10 a metre. So make sure 1.6mm thick is what you use for this. Now, move this out of the way. The frame has got 2 screws in the top here. This customer has actually done a really good job. He's made a point of pulling out the originals and replacing them with stainless steel. Now he's re-tapped the threads in these to a metric thread so that the countersunk screws are nice and easy to get. Take the time to replace them. They cost all of about 50 cents each, so make sure you do that. There's just these 2 on the bottom as well. So he's done the same thing. He's just taken the originals out, got rid of the old rusted ones, got some nice new stainless steel ones going in their place. Now, once these are out, this is very straightforward. You don't need to have any experience fitting glass at all. The frame's just going to lift up and slide out. Once that's ready, take the time. If you're not re-chroming your frames, please, please, please get some wax and grease remover or Prepsol. Clean out inside the frames, because if you don't, you're going to have a hard time getting the setting tape to do its job. So now we're going to grab our setting tape that we need for this. We're going to measure it. We've got ours pre-cut, but we're basically going to do the front edge and the bottom edge first, making sure that that's long enough. Now, this is 40mm wide. All you're going to do is fold this in half. This is not rubber. Everyone mistakes it for rubber. A lot of guys use bike inner tube. Just don't do it. This stuff is cheap, it's nice and easy. It's actually a butyl compound, and what it will do is it will tack off and stick to both the frame and the glass and give it a nice watertight seal. Remember, your original one lasted 60 years to this point, so you're not going to have any issues. We're just going to sit this, making sure it's hanging past on the top edge. I've got some clear sticky tape here ready just to hold it in place. Just want to hold that there. This is just so you don't need a second set of hands or anybody else helping you. We'll grab another little bit of tape, and again, same thing, just hold it at the bottom. Now, if you've watched some of our other videos, you'll often see in the corners that we actually put a small cut and everything else. We don't need to with this. The radius is large enough, it's such that we just don't need to. If you just massage this by hand, you'll end up getting it nice and flat through there. So you're not going to have any resistance getting it in the frame. So we're going to grab our kerosene. Now the kerosene is going to lubricate it, but it's also going to cause it to tack off slightly. All we're going to do is just wipe this. See how it's now nice and shiny as I wipe this along? You can't use too much, so be liberal. Make sure you've got plenty on there. Now we're just going to grab the frame. Sit this in place just loosely. Now, trick for young players, start with this edge first. If you knock down into the frame, then when you've got to push this way, you've got less resistance. If you put the bottom in first and then have to slide this way, you've got almost double the amount of surface area that it's dragging on. So we're just going to push down. That's sitting nicely in there. Push down on this. Now, rubber mallet. As long as you are using the original toughened glass or our toughened glass, you will not have a problem. You can give this a good thump just to make sure it's sitting down where it's meant to be. that is looking good. Now, next trick, razor blade. In the top corner here, you can see where there's actually the mitre, where the stainless frame butts into this. The next thing we're going to do is literally sit this in place and push down, trim that away. Same on the other side again, push down, remove the excess. Same on the bottom corner, except we're going to cut flush this time. Through there, flush through here, and we can remove the excess. Now, this is important. Don't go nuts and put the top setting tape on and everything. You want to sit this in place and make sure that it's actually going to cover the edge of the glass. You can potentially push it too far down and too far in, and you'll end up with a gap forming. So I always just do a quick test fit. Just push this into place, make sure that there's no dramas. Alright, that's sitting nicely, so we can go ahead and pull this back out now. It is a snug fit. Just be careful. Alright, next one. Again, fold this in half. Now, there's a trick when it comes time to actually put this one in place. We're going to mitre the bottom corner to make sure it's sitting nicely. Down the bottom here, we're going to trim this back on a 45-degree angle, or close enough to it. That way when this sits in place, we might even trim this back a little bit just to make sure that it's square. Now, that's sitting with a nice clean mitre through there. You're not going to get any gaps forming. We'll bring this up. And we're going to mitre this top corner as well. We want this to be a nice neat job. Cut further along than you think you have to, and you can always keep coming back and removing a little bit at a time. You can take it off, but you can't put it back on. Just a little bit more. Okay, that's looking good. So we'll wipe this again with our kerosene. So again, that's nice and shiny. Remember, you can't use too much. You're not going to do any harm if you get it nice and wet. Pop this top in here, making sure we're lining up with the bottom all right. Don't need to go to town thumping this too much. Now, I'll grab a clamp just to pull this down. Because this is all nicely fresh and polished, even if I tape it, I've still got a risk of putting scratches on it, which I don't want to do. So I'm just going to clamp this. We've got a nice piece of rubber here so that we don't mark anything. We're just going to pull this in slightly and make sure that the holes in here are lining up. A little bit more. That's beautiful. So we can now just pop our screws back in there. Back down, screws back in here again, nice and easy, and you are just about done. Now, you're going to need the razor blade again for this next bit. I can't stress this enough. Make sure it is a brand new razor blade. Do not use one that you've even used once before, because if you slip and the edge is dull on this, it will scratch the glass. At least with a brand new blade, if you slip in this next process, you won't scratch the glass, or you've got less chance of scratching the glass. This one we know is nice and new. All we're going to now do is just score this around the inside. Slow and steady. peeling away the excess. And that is done. That is a nice factory finish. That is exactly how Ford did it from the factory, and that whole process took less than 5 minutes. If you were urethaning that, you'd have all sorts of dramas. You'd be going overnight and having to come back and clean it up. That is now finished and ready to fit into the car. So make sure you check out our other videos. We'll run through how to do the front door windows for this as well. Again, very straightforward process. If you need any glass, if you need setting tape, if you need any advice, feel free to give us a call. Our number here at Glass for Classics is 1300 442 000, or our email is enquiries@glassforclassics.com.au, and we look forward to helping you out.